Good morning. It's Sunday, March 6th, and this is sort of a special edition of To My Liberal Friends, and I'm John Haddo. I don't normally do these on the weekends, but events in Ukraine have forced me to reassess where we're going and what's happening right now. Russia continues its advance, bombing the airport in Kiev, threatening nuclear plants, and basically making it clear that Putin has no intention of stopping. And so what's the reaction by the administration? Well, President Biden is going to send Vice President Kamala Harris to explain to the people about the Russian invasion. And she did this earlier this week, and I'm going to quote. She goes, how she explained it in what she said layman terms, so you can understand it. Now imagine how offensive this could be. She said, quote, Ukraine is a country in Europe. It exists next to another country called Russia. Russia is a bigger country. Russia is a powerful country. Russia decided to invade a smaller country called Ukraine. So basically, that's wrong, end quote. When she made this explanation, she spoke very slowly so we could understand what she was saying. This is like a typical American tourist in a foreign country who thinks if they speak English slower and louder, then any foreigner will suddenly be able to understand English. I've seen it happen over and over. So now, off she goes back to Europe and specifically to Poland. And let's hope she does not crack any Polish joke and start cackling with laughter. But she will let the government of Poland and the Polish people know that they are also a country in Europe, smaller than Russia, but next to Belarus, an ally of Russia, and they could be invaded as well. What she should be doing is negotiating the transfer of Polish MiG-29 aircraft to the Ukrainian government and replacing them with American fighter planes in the Polish Air Force. Ukrainian pilots are very capable and they're trained in the MiG-29. They could then use these aircraft to help maintain control over the skies of Ukraine and to also start demolishing that 40-mile-long convoy of Russian equipment stalled outside of Kiev. The Polish government clearly understands that Putin will not stop at Ukraine. The Polish ambassador to the United States, Marek Medzierowski, made it very clear by stating, quote, we have always been right about Russia and about Mr. Putin. Unlike other countries, I mean Poland, Romania, and the Baltics, we have never had any doubts whatsoever about the neo-imperial ambitions of the Russian president, end quote. So what's going to happen? Well, I doubt that anything will happen as far as Joe Biden is concerned because I think he's actually afraid to confront Vladimir Putin. He's still allowing the United States to buy Russian oil that helps finance the Russian war machine. And he won't drill here or make us energy independent again. Now, Congress is going to take up this issue of Russian oil, and he may be forced to come to grips that we don't want to buy it. But here are some of the facts. Putin's been in power for 22 years and has now decided that his legacy will be to reconstitute the Russian or Soviet Empire. Ukraine is his latest effort after taking Crimea and Georgia and Chechnya. He has Belarus by default, with the current government allowing him full and total access to attack Ukraine. Putin is surrounded by yes men, many of them billionaire oligarchs whose fortunes are based on him retaining power. So he gets very little real advice on what's going on. Putin and the Russian government are shutting down any negative media in Russia and not allowing any dissent for this abhorrent war. Now, the older population of Russia get their news from the state-run media, and so they tend to support the war, which is characterized to them as stopping Western aggressions toward Russia. But the younger generations are finding ways to get information via social media and other outlets to give them a better correct description of this war, and they're starting to voice their opposition. They do this knowing it puts them in peril by the Russian police, and so you have to admire them. Putin has put himself in a box. He thought this invasion of Ukraine would last a mere 4 days at most. Ukraine would roll over, the Zelensky government would be toppled, and the country would be in total capitulation and become a Russian federated state. But that's not been the case. We're now into the second week of the invasion. The Russian military has apparently outrun their supply lines, a fatal mistake by any army. Reports are coming back that the Russian equipment is substandard, that rations are dated to expire in 2015, and many of the Russian soldiers are confused about what their mission is actually supposed to be, and none of them seem to think they were there to fight civilians. But Putin cannot back down now because it would be embarrassing. and he would look like the fool that he is now perceived to be. That is the biggest problem for the Ukrainian government and the rest of NATO. How do you give this maniac an off-ramp and allow him to save face and withdraw? Meanwhile, back in Washington, President Biden seems equally confused about what actions to take, and as a result does nothing except mouth words of support for the Ukrainian people. He deploys troops to Poland and Romania, then makes it clear to Putin they're not there to fight any Russian aggression in Ukraine. So why have them there? The bottom line is Joe Biden needs to become a leader like the Ukrainian President Zelensky. He needs to stand up and say to Putin, enough is enough. We are going to arm Ukraine to the teeth. We are going to give the Polish fighters to them. We are going to continue to supply them. We're going to drag this into a war you cannot win, and you need to realize it now. Come on, President Biden. Start being a leader. Get out of the basement of the White House. Quit taking vacations to Delaware and start being the leader the American people expect. This is To My Liberal Friends. Thanks for listening.